Hello, today we are going to learn about context API in React. First of all, what is React? React is a JS library in which we can build front-end applications. So React contains two things, state and components. Components are basically building blocks of a React in which we can systematize the code for better readability. And state are basically the objects in which holds a value in which we can use in the components. Now let's see, you have a shopping app, okay, and as all React.js apps, it also contains the app.js and it has all its components C1, C2, C3, C4 up to C9. And in this C4 you define a state login, okay, and you set it to true, means the user is logging from this C4 component, and you have to check in C9 component that if the user is logging or not, means the state of this login state, it is true or not, we have to check it in C9 component, okay. So we have to pass it. How do we do this? From the traditional way approach, we have to use a state lifting, means we will use this login state, we will define this login state in the app.js itself, okay, and in whatever component it is needed, we will pass it through it, means we will pass it to C1, then C2, then C3, then C4, and we will pass it to C9. Then we will change the state of this login to true in C4 and then use it in C9. So this is called prop drilling, means passing the states through various props through all the components. And when your app contains so many components like 20 to 25, it is very hectic work in industrial applications also. So to this, the context API comes into play. What we will do this, we will define a context outside of this whole React app. We will define a state called login in this context, and we will wrap this whole React app with this context provider, means the provider which the context will be providing. And whatever the children, means whatever the components are wrapped into this context, will be able to use this login state, okay, which we define in the context. Now let's see in the code how this works. I have created a basic React app here. So in the React app, I have in app.js, I have called home component. In the home component, I have called about component. In the about component, I have called contact component. In the contact component, I have data called this is contact. Means this is a better example of solving how prop drilling can be avoided. Now this is the app, home, about, and this is contact. To use context API, we'll create a folder called context in the SRC directory, okay. So we'll create a file called nodecontext.js and another file called nodeprovider.js. In nodecontext.js, we'll simply import a function from React called as createContext, okay. So we have imported it. Now use this. I have created a variable called nodeContext and use the createContext function and stored it in here, and we'll just export it. So this is the syntax which we'll be using, and it is compulsory. We cannot change that. There is nothing to understand in this syntax also. It is very easy, only 3 lines. And in node provider, we will first import the context which we just created, okay. Then we will just create a functional component called node provider, and we will just export it, okay. So we have written nodecontext.provider. Provider is actually provided whenever we use this createContext function, and in the nodeContext component we have got a class called provider which we can use it. And let's see about the value of this letter. We have wrapped the props.children into this nodecontext.provider, means the children, whichever are those, can use the states which will be declaring in this node provider. So first of all, let's declare a state. Let's declare a state is equal to, and some parameters as name as coding zen and age as 20, okay. Now how to use this node context into our app.js? As said, we have to wrap it. with the node provider. Just wrapping. Okay, so I have wrapped the app.js. Now in the contact.js, to use this context, we have to first we will create a variable and use a hook called use context. Okay, and we will import the context of which we created, means the node context. Okay, in the use context hook, we have passed this node context. Okay, let's import the use context hook also to avoid errors. Okay, we have imported use context hook also, and let's simply write here. This is context.name and here's context.age year source. Now on the screen we should see that this is coding Zen and he is 20 years old. Now let's see. So we got an error. Let's see why. In the node provider, we haven't shared the state. We have created the node provider, right? But we haven't passed the state. So to pass this, as we have shown before, we have to use the value prop. I will just pass. Okay, I have passed the value, passed the state object in the value prop. Now this should work. Let's see. As you can see, this work means this is coding Zen and he's 20 years old. We didn't have to declare the state in the home variable in the home component, then pass it to about, then contact to use this in contact. We just created a context. We have wrapped the app.js with node provider and use it in the contact.js. Okay. Now let's play with a little more with this. First of all, let's create a use state. Okay. Let's see S1 and set S1. Okay, so create a set and use state is equal to state. First of all, let's import use state. Okay, I imported use state also. Now we have to pass the set S1 function in the contact.js also. So how will you do that? We'll use the object property. Means the S1 property will have S1 object and set S1 property will have this set S1 function. Now in contact.js, we will write use the effect and we will just write here use the set timeout function from the JavaScript and write here context.set S1. Let's change the name to coding address. Okay, I think this looks better, and age to I guess 30. Okay, and we will trigger this function after exactly 2 seconds. Okay, let's add a empty dependency array in the use effect to run it only on one render. Now as we have updated the property of JavaScript, means of object property, means S1 will contain the name and age. So in the contact.js we will use context.s1.name and context.s1.age, means the S1 objects have name and age property. Okay, now let's see if this works or not. Let's reload it. First of all, in the node provider. Okay, let's not make it complicated. We'll just use effect and context.set S1, name is equal to coding Z2 and is equal to let's say 30. Okay, so let's see on the page. As you can see, the name is changed. If you reload it, the name is changed. Okay, means in the contact.js we have replaced the meaning, means we have replaced the S1 object with these values. Okay, we can see this was only coding Zen at 20. In the contact.js, with using use effect, we have changed the values with coding Zen 2 and is equal to 30. Now, so this was all about context API. We can share the functions, share the states and whatever you want. You can also share components also. So this was about context API. Hope you all understood about context API. Thank you.